All right. By request, people were asking me to do a video about ESFJs in a time of crisis or in a pandemic. Um, ESFJs are interesting because their parent function is what I was referring to was the irritating parent function because that's what you parent and boss other people with is SI parent. SI parent typically deals with past experience and with duty and what you should do. The problem with this right now is this has never happened to most American people. It's not been in my lifetime and not my parents' lifetime. People are trying to compare this to the Spanish flu, and this is nothing in comparison. The Spanish flu literally was wiping out millions of people overnight very rapidly and very quickly. This is not the case with the coronavirus. And so the ESFJs and the ESTJs are kind of getting a pass this time around because there is no past experience. They're in unfamiliar water and unfamiliar territory. They don't know what to do in this situation. And so when you make an ESFJ uncomfortable, they're going to shove down in their shadow, which is an ISFP. And you might see some of them being more homebodies now in this situation because remember, ESFJs are double background. And so that means they have an ISFP side of their mind and an INTP side of their mind. So you could have an ESFJ at a time of crisis like this sitting at home studying physics for fun on their INTP side, or they're possibly painting some stuff and getting involved in old hobbies they used to be involved with. And so in many cases, ESFJs might be just fine in this situation because there's really no duty for them to follow or to boss other people around. Now, as this virus continues and there is a system in place and of their trusted system that insists upon things, they might get a little more bossy and more extroverted with people, trying to get people in line with what the current system is. The problem with SI, it requires personal experience, as with all introverted functions. Introverted functions are very confusing and they vary a lot because they're such an individual thinking mindset. And so whether you're talking about TI, FI, SI, or NI, it varies greatly between the persons, what they've experienced in life, what they've studied, what they're doing, and what country they grow up in. And so the typical stereotype ESFJ is usually the church stereotype ESFJ. So you can use that example of, for instance, somebody that goes to church on a regular basis, the Christian ESFJ in America is always trying to be that bossy person, tell you what you should do, and they're going to be very critical when you step out of line with what the traditional behavior or the traditional system is in this case. And so when you're talking about ESFJs, wow, that was clumsy of me, SE Demon. FE Hero is the most self-sacrificing function there is in all 16 types. You can argue the ENFJ is self-sacrificing too, but the ENFJ does not have SI parent, which is a traditional mindset that's going to really, really demand, the best out of the ESFJ, and they're going to have that duty thrust upon them because ENFJs do what they want, ESFJs do what they should do. Okay, and that makes the big difference between them because they're going to traditionally try to keep the system and everything in a feng shui, nice harmony within the household of whatever they live in. So they don't really have a tradition right now to adhere to currently because this has never happened before. In the future, perhaps next year when we have another coronavirus or whatever like that, yeah, they're gonna be like, remember what happened last time? Let me tell you what happened last time. Let me tell you what happened to me. Okay, last time I ran out of toilet paper, so this time I am not going to run out of toilet paper. Okay, and then they're going to be critical with their SE critic to mothers and fathers who don't have sufficient toilet paper prepared for their family. Get my drift? Because the system was there and that past experience should have made you be responsible. SI parent, you should have been responsible for this. They can't really blame anybody for this right now because this has never happened before. For most people, it came out of left field. Okay, so most people had no chance to be prepared. I guarantee ESFJs will be prepared for next year. Okay, and they're going to be critical of other people who are not prepared and giving their families a bad environment or not taking care of themselves because SE critic is all about that. Is your teeth brush? Is your hair comb? They have a fun time with me. And these are kind of things that they're critical of. Oh, you feed your children that. Don't you know that's GMO? Okay. Oh, you don't nutrify your family? Oh, you don't take these vitamins? Oh, really? Aren't you responsible with your health? What's your problem? This is the SI parent annoying side of them. This is why they're the kings and queens of MLMs, you know, multi-level marketing. They're just the best at it. And so you'll see ESFJs always involved in, you know, just in MLMs and things like that. The thing about them is you have to worry about is in a time of crisis like this, the FE hero is going to be really prone to covert contracts. What does that mean? It means I scratched your back. I'm going to remember when I did this, and you better scratch my back later when I call upon you. If not, you're irresponsible and you don't believe in duty, and you're not a good person in society. Okay, so you don't really want to do that. So you may have the ESFJ dropping off fruit, dropping off toilet paper, helping you out, cooking you meals, taking care of your whole neighborhood, and everyone's like, oh, okay, cool. And then next year they're like, oh, remember that one time I cooked you this? Why? Because SI parent remembers everything. SI parent remembers back their childhood. They're always telling stories about their childhood. Okay, so they're going to tell you about the experience they had as a child growing up of eating certain foods and how well you have it. Okay, this is kind of how their annoying part of them is, and they're going to be very informative, this kind of stuff. Okay, and so they're also going to be very informative in the future when this has happened before, and whatever news source they get, whether they're watching liberal TV news or conservative TV news, or they're watching Alex Jones, or they're watching, you know, whatever, Democracy Now!, they're going to use that standard to parent you with, because this is what they inform them with. Okay, and so this is kind of how they're going to, this is what you should want, because these people said this and they're the authority in this sense. They're not like the ESTJ that's going to just take the expert's word for it right away, because ESTJs are all about TE hero. What is your credentials? You know, why are you qualified to get this report? So an ESTJ doesn't want to hear your viewpoint or your conspiracy theory on things unless you have a climatologist above your head, or you're a virologist, you know, things like that. Otherwise, they're going to dismiss you and say, you cite your sources or where's your credentials, because I don't want to listen to somebody who's not an expert. ESFJs aren't necessarily like that. And so ESFJs could, and most of the time, are more objective on their own selves. They're going to come to their own thinking, their own conclusion. And because of TI inferior being their fear of being stupid or being thought of as stupid, they might be overcompensating. I have many ESFJ students who like to try to use bigger words than they're even capable of doing. Many ESFJ musicians, as you heard my interview with Chucky, about them using like a dictionary to try to use bigger words so they come across as smarter. They're very critical about who they hang out around with, because FE hero needs to be valued. And so you'll see ESFJs who feel they're being disrespected. They'll just block you and unfriend you, because they don't need to be respected. They need to be valued. If you're not valuing them, you know, you're going to get whatever kind of legal system they have, whether that be on Facebook, block, you know, and things like that. That's kind of how ESFJs are. And so, and then they'll talk behind your back and, you know, ruin your reputation or things like that. And this was a real big issue in the Jehovah's Witness faith, because ESFJs are all over the witness faith, you know. And so these are the people who are gossiping about the woman wearing the dress, you know, that's inappropriate, that's not to the standard. Okay, and so she's wearing a slutty dress. And so if she's wearing a slutty dress, that means she's going to do this. She's going to fornicate. Okay, because any child is going to create a future for you in their mind, and they're going to create it with ease really quickly based on what their SI has experienced with you. And so if they've only experienced good things with you, any child will create good futures and possibilities, and they'll come to good conclusions about you. But if you've crossed an ESFJ in the past and they've decided that you're a bad person, any child's going to be like, oh, this person is going to steal. Don't be around that guy. He's bad news. This is bad territory, things like that. And so this past experience, back on the subject of coronavirus, if they find that you were untrustworthy or unloving or not a good person, not following the system, you know, they're definitely going to talk to their friends and family about you and say, hey, don't trust that guy, because last year he did this, and so this year he's going to do it again. Okay, and this is what he's going to do, so you need to stay away from him, you know, because he doesn't follow the system. Okay, this is kind of how it is. And so if you want an ESFJ not to be that way with you, always make sure to respect their intellectual side, and always respect that logical side of them. They really want to be objective. They want to tell you different things. And so if they're sending you stuff from Alex Jones, or they're sending you stuff from MSNBC, and they're sending you stuff from Fox, or they're sending whatever news source, you know, from various different ways, because ESFJs are very plentiful and they're very in different characteristics, you better listen to what they say. at least respect what they send you. Say thank you. Make sure they feel valued. Otherwise, you know, you're going to piss them off, and then you're going to get your reputation ruined. So if you're in some kind of relationship with one, always value what they do for you. Try to remember what they do, because you're not going to remember as well as they are, because they got SF parent. However, if they don't follow the system, which they're insisting everyone else follows, you can call them out of that. They're going to feel guilty about it, and then they'll be like, okay, I'm sorry, you're right, I was out of line. And they're actually quite easy to manipulate. And this is really bad about them. And so with ESFJs, you know, you always protect them, and they'll be your most loyal friend in life, always there, and they will die for you. But don't cross them, because they will ruin your life. Okay? Always respect their intellectual sides, even if you don't agree with them. Always humor them, at least, you know, make sure they feel like you're valuing them. Okay. And next year, ESFJs are going to be the ones sending you messages saying, oh, remember this happened last year, so remember to get apples or whatever, you know, they seem fit in whatever, you know, the tradition is. And so this is why it's kind of like they're not too annoying. And also, when you're talking about being stuck in the house, this is going to shove the ESFJ into their shadow. It's going to be more ISFP-like, you know, because everyone's in a hostile mind. This is why the ISFJs and the INFJs are more annoying right now, because they're in their shadow focuses and making them more extroverted and making them more contact-oriented and talking to people on Facebook and parenting them and doing all that annoying stuff. While the ESFJ may not be that way, they may try to get harmony by sending out jokes and, you know, trying to be funny and sharing good news and things like that. And you'll see them do those kind of things. But yeah, if you don't respect them, they will block you. Okay. And so that's just kind of how it is. ESFJs would be the types of people that say, I don't need that in my life. I don't need to feel uncomfortable because you're a bad person. And because they already have FI nemesis already ragging on them nonstop all the time about being a bad person. And so they don't want other people saying that too. So ESFJs need to be valued. They're going to find a system to follow. This can vary between an upbringing, whether they're Christian, they could be atheist, they could be whatever, you know, and then they're going to parent you to follow that system that they see in place, because this is the best system in line. Everybody should follow the system, because I've already confirmed it with my TI inferior that it's the best system. Why aren't you listening to me? You know, this is what's going to happen in each child. Okay, listen to me. I know what's going to happen because I've been through this experience before. Listen to me. This is when they're going to get annoying, because then they're going to be upset because you're not following the system they're adhering to, and they've confirmed their mind is the best system. This is why they get really irritating when they're Christians and try to proselytize people all the time. Or if they're atheists, even they like to do the opposite proselytation of, I've confirmed that atheism is the way to go because God isn't real, because this is such reason, and I'm going to get very preachy with you. Okay, and then if you attack them back and call them stupid, then they're going to flip out. You know, they're going to go into their demon mode. They're going to call you a bunch of names. They're going to call you a hypocrite. They're going to call you a narcissist. They're going to call you a heathen. They're going to call you whatever bad name, things like that. And this is kind of what they can turn out to be like. And so the SE critic is going to hit a lot more next year or whenever this happens again. I can't believe you're such a bad mother. You're a bad father. You didn't provide for your family because this happened last year. Why don't you remember that you needed to have toilet paper? Okay. Hope that helps with the ESFJ.